direct all things with thy most wise and all gracious providence. We thank thee for thy blessings, which are beyond number, and for this city of Grand Terrace and for these dedicated civic leaders. Having given thanks, we entreat thee, bless the labors of this council with inspiration. Preserve thy servants, Mayor Darcy and the council. Grant unto them unanimity of mind, peaceful and constructive cooperation, civility and respect when in disagreement, and confirm the works of their hands. We remember before thee for protection and for all good things our police force and firefighters and the emergency workers of this town. Bless, O Lord, this city's doctors and nurses and all who cooperate with thee in administering healing to our bodies. Sustain and inspire the clergymen of Grand Terrace who watch over and nourish souls. Multiply the days of their lives in health unalterable and grant them progress in virtues. Be mindful, O Lord, of the people here present and those who dwell in this city faithfully. Have mercy upon them according to the multitude of thy mercy. Fill their treasuries with every good thing. Maintain their marriage bonds in peace and concord. Rear the children. Guide the young people and uphold with thy mighty right hand their teachers and counselors who form and educate them each day. Support our elderly. Encourage the faint-hearted and the distressed. Collect those who are scattered and turn them from their wandering, and unite them to thy truth. Bestow thy good things from above upon all thy people. Hear their prayers and sighs, and further all their good endeavors. Deliver thy holy church, and this, the city of Grand Terrace, from every evil assault, from earthquake and every natural catastrophe, from civil strife, from gang violence and acts of terrorism. Grant that we might, as a people, turn our attention to the inner man, to our faith and virtue and character as the bedrock of our cultural life. Nail us all to the fear of thee, O Lord God. Strengthen our neighborhoods and our friendships. Increase our civic pride. Grant to all a deep sense of communal responsibility and care. Uplift this city's populace, and grant that as it increases and as it matures, it might preserve the honorable qualities that this land has cultivated. And now, as these thy servants consider their budget, ponder over increased crime, and deliberate on the important matters facing this council, grant that they may always offer thanksgiving to thee, the Father, who has no beginning, and thine only begotten Son, Jesus Christ, and thine all holy, good, and life-creating Spirit, now and forever. Amen.
Amen.
Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Father Josiah. Thank you, thank you, Chief Wooders. Madam City Clerk, may we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Henderson,
Present.
Councilmember Hussey,
Present.
Councilmember Wilson,
I'm here.
Mayor Pro Tem Robles,
Present.
Mayor McNabo.
Present.
Mayor, you have a quorum. Excuse me, however, did you call the special meeting to order at the same time?
I did.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we have no special presentations tonight, so we'll move to the consent calendar. Consent calendar items are expected to be routine and non-controversial. They will be acted upon by the City Council at one time without discussion, and any staff member or citizen or council member may request a removal of an item from the consent calendar for discussion. Are there any requests for removal of items from the consent calendar? All right, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion for the consent calendar.
Mayor, I move approval.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Henderson, second by Councilmember Hussey. Please vote.
Motion passes unanimously with Councilmembers Henderson, Hussey, and Wilson voting yes, Mayor Pro Tem Robles voting yes, and Mayor McNabo voting yes.
Thank you. Move to public comment. This is an opportunity for members of the public to comment on any items not appearing on the regular agenda. Because of restrictions contained in California law, the City Council may not discuss or act on any item on the not on the agenda, but may briefly respond to statements made or ask questions for clarification. Items may also be agendized for a future meeting, and a request may be made of staff to give a brief response to any items that are raised. Do we have any requests to speak during this time?
Madam Mayor,
Mr. City Attorney.
may I also recommend that the public be known that this public comment would be for both the special meeting and the regular meeting, if they have anything on either one.
All right. Well, thank you for bringing that up. In that case, is there anyone that has requested to speak during this time? All right, thank you. Seeing no takers, we'll close public comment and bring it back to City Council. For their communications, we'll begin with Councilmember Ken Henderson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have no comments at this time.
Thank you, Councilmember Henderson. Councilmember Bill Hussey.
Thank you. Thank everybody who came out tonight, and that was a beautiful prayer that you did. It's really great. I went to League of Cities. We just had a meeting. It was about homeless problems, and we can see it all around in our county, the effects of the homelessness. And the sheriffs have what's called a HOPE program. It's Homeless Outreach Proactive Enforcement. And just some side notes, they did really good. They have a special task force to help with the homeless problem. I don't think there's really any true answer because the sheriff's department, they're limited on what they can do with the homeless. And some of the things is, when they get called for, because Loma Linda's having problems with the homeless encampments out there in the orange groves. And of course, we have the river bottom here, and it's just getting worse. But some of the problems is, they just take them to the jail, or they're there for a couple hours, or if they have a psych problem, that they'll probably get admitted for at least a couple days. But during the 1980s, the ACLU sued the federal government, and President Reagan was in office and saying that you can't put mentally ill patients in a psych ward without their okaying it or their approval. And that, in effect, had a long-term effect on our homelessness because a lot of them have psychiatric issues, also drug dependent and alcoholism. So they were just talking about that. It takes an average, cost the taxpayer an average of $34,000 for homeless problems for each homeless person. They have the chronically ill homeless, which are, once again, are the ones who have the mental problems, and you could definitely tell when, a chronic homeless person between somebody that's just regular homeless because the way their hygiene is. And there's approximately 130,000 homeless in our San Bernardino County. And, 130,000 homeless in the United States, and there's 2,144 chronic homeless in San Bernardino County. And one of the other things that's happening with the homeless is the age between the homeless is 25 to 35 years old, but they're experiencing more 51-year-olds and up because a lot of them had problems with the law, and their parents did a reverse mortgage on their homes. And when the parents pass away, the banks come by and take the homes, and now people are out on the streets. So that's another problem. So, hats off for the Sheriff's Department. I know they do a lot of stuff, and this is one big issue they have to deal with. And we're going to need more state and federal resources on this. This is a problem that's not going to go away. We see it on the city news all the time with the homeless population. They put Band-Aids on it. They give them a room for 30 days at a hotel, and the hotel gets tore apart. But they need a long list of problems that they have, but they need a bigger picture. They need something that's going to fix it, and it's going to be a long road for that. One of the problems is that they're trying to do is church programs and everything. They're working on their own system, and San Bernardino County is trying to get where the churches all come together and get one active system installed. A lot of the homeless, they know, like when the church is at, this one will feed you on Tuesday, this one will feed you on Wednesday and Thursday and Friday. So the county is trying to stop that because they want actually resources for the homelessness. So it's just not, the churches are just handing them a meal, and then they end up staying in the neighborhoods, and then it's actually hindering the neighborhoods. So there's, like I said, a long road for this, and we need county, and the county needs state and federal resources. And also panhandling. Panhandling's a big problem. They gave one example. They had a couple with children that come from Orange County, and they panhandle in Loma Linda, and they average make, the sheriff's went undercover $250 to $350 a day. Then they go back to Orange County in their nice big house. And people feel bad for because you see children out there. And one guy even borrows his neighbor dog and gives him like 20% take of what he gets on that day. So the moral of the thing is, don't get the panhandlers. I'm a Christian. Sometimes I hear like, well, a Christian's supposed to help people. Well, I'm helping them because I pretty much know that the money's going to be spent on drugs. So if you want to do anything, give them a meal or give them a bottle of water. And I know San Bernardino City Mission has resources, and so does the Salvation Army. So it's a big problem happening. And in that note, I want to thank the sheriffs of Loma Linda because they do a lot, and they've been helping us up here in Grand Terrace. I went for a walk the other day, and some incident happened, and I came across one of the sheriffs, and he was actually pulled from the hospital to come here and back up our sheriff. So, I know that's a lot because I know the city council is trying to get Loma Linda to pay for additional sheriffs because they're having problems at the hospital and the ER and everything, and they need the resources there. So we're taking a resource from a hospital that needs it. So I appreciate, I know when the call goes out, everybody comes and helps, the band of brothers and sisters. And that's pretty much all I have. Mayor, thank you. Oh, one last thing. If you have a homeless problem, because I know we're having them up here, if you phone 211, that will get you with a correct contact in with somebody that could probably help if you see somebody homeless and they need help. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Hussey. Councilmember Doug Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to say a few words for our first responders. They just are terrific people. They never slow down whatsoever in relation to responding to the needs of the citizens, and we get a report monthly that shows all the work that is done on behalf of the citizenry here in Grand Terrace, and believe me, it is an incredible amount of coordination and help and guidance. Like, again, to thank the Sheriff's Department and their quick response. Might I say it's a good idea not to just be so quick to open your front door. Sometimes, especially if you can get an eyeball on who's ever at your front door, it might prevent a tragedy of some kind. I'd also like to mention that, in concert with Councilman Hussey, the homeless situation, as well as the, just the tough times that people have fallen on. I honestly think that the best way to try to cure these situations are not necessarily a handout, but a hand up, and that is we graduated our 10th class of Big Boom and 10 fellows between the ages of 28 and 41, and they are now equipped to go out and get jobs and not, just paper hat jobs. They actually have skills that are marketable, and I think that's really where we need to start pouring our time into, and there's an awful lot of us out there that can easily be mentors, that don't have to have the big paychecks necessarily, that can go out there and see if we can't maybe help the situation a little bit and make it a better circumstance for everybody. You look in the eyes of the kids that are in those families, and they don't know until a little bit later maybe that their parents are struggling and so on, but they certainly know when their parents get loaded down with drugs or alcohol or combination of depression or whatever, or they're running from one hotel to the next, or they're not quite sure where they're going to get their next meal. So I think the best way we can apply ourselves is to try to use the intellect that God has given us and help them improve themselves. Anyway, that's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Wilson. Mayor Pro Tem Sylvia Robles.
Thank you. I had deferred a report from my June 7th attendance to the League of Cities Revenue and Taxation Subcommittee. Pretty much what they did was brief all of the city attendants for the various committees on the state budget. There's been significant changes since that meeting of June 7th. The gas tax is absolutely going to be on the ballot for November. The Business Roundtable Initiative, as of this afternoon, has been repealed. A deal was made with the state legislature not to allow local jurisdictions to tax soda sales. So that means there will not be a 2/3 requirement on any tax measures that localities would be placing on the ballot. That will not apply to us because our parcel tax does require a 2/3 vote. Also, the U.S. Supreme Court this week decided on what's called a decision about where sales taxes should be collected, and they ruled that sales tax will be collected where the person making the purchase resides. So that's going to have some major ramifications to cities like San Bernardino that have Amazon warehouses and of that nature. So the good news on the 2/3 requirement is there's a number of park and recreation bonds, water bonds, and what have you, that will be on November's ballot that won't need quite a high threshold that the 2/3 is. The subcommittee more focus is to weigh in and advise the board of directors on some legislation. And we listened to a debate between the California Association of Realtors and the County Supervisors Association. There are certain counties that if you're a senior and you're replacing a property in a cooperating county, you can make a lateral change and keep the same sales tax base of the property that you're selling. The California Association of Realtors wants to make that statewide, every county, and that you could buy a more expensive home. So we had a spirited discussion on that. I don't know what the policy, what the board of directors ended up doing, but we voted to stay neutral. We felt that there was a lot more vetting of this proposal that should be done between cooperating entities. And my take was, as a senior and, living in the Inland Empire, they keep talking about, well, seniors want smaller homes. And I says, well, I live near Beaumont, and people are buying much bigger homes in Beaumont. And if I were to go west, I would have to downsize from a home to a condo. And by the time you put HOA fees and all that, you're really not saving money. The other issue was for the disabled. Well, when you're looking at a townhouse or condo situation, it's very difficult to find anything that's not a 2-story. So we weren't really ameliorating any real issues with senior housing through this discussion, so we ended up taking a neutral position. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Robles. On June 13th, I attended the General Policy Committee for the San Bernardino County Transportation Authority. We had a number of end-of-year, third quarter budget to actual reports, May 2018 procurement report. But we also recommended to the board that they award a contract to S2 Engineering for construction management services for the Santa Fe Depot structural repairs. And we also recommended they perform the biannual review of the SBCTA's Conflict of Interest Code and amend Appendix A with updated employee job titles. We received information on the San Bernardino County Transportation Authority fiscal year 2018-19 grant cycle 4 application strategy for the ATP funding. The funds that they have scheduled are for MetroLink bicycle and pedestrian accessibility plan implementation, contingent on the identification of funding commitments for project management and other matching funds. We also are looking at San Bernardino County Safe Routes to School program implementation as part of that funding for the active transportation program. We recommended approval of a 2018 update to the Development Mitigation Nexus Study, project lists and cost estimates, the amendments to the San Bernardino County Non-Motorized Transportation Plan. We recommended approval of the agreement with the San Bernardino County Auditor, Controller, Treasurer, Tax Collector to provide for the collection of special assessments related to the San Bernardino Associated Governments Home Energy Renovation Opportunity Program for the coming fiscal year. And that's not really an extension of the program so much as it is a funding for those who currently are part of that program. SBCTA took action to not be the administrator of that anymore, but they still have to maintain the program for those that took advantage of it before SBCTA stopped being the administrator for future programs. State and federal legislative updates were received and filed. We approved amendment to Measure I 2010-2040 strategic plan policies to include the due date for the annual update of member jurisdictions' 5-year plan, so that will affect the City of Grand Terrace, especially as it relates to our local streets program requirement. So we recommended that the board approve that. We recommended the adoption of the population estimates for use in the allocation of Measure I local street program funds, and that will affect Grand Terrace as well. On June 14th was the Metro Valley Study Session for San Bernardino County Transportation Authority, and so being that time of year, we received construction contract change orders to the San Bernardino County Transportation Authority construction contracts with Flatiron West and Riverside Construction. We elected committee chair and vice chair of the study session. Frank Navarro from the City of Colton will be the incoming chair. Kurt Hagman, County Supervisor, 4th District, will be the vice chair. We received a report on contractor warranties and recommended approval of amended restated cooperative agreement with the City of San Bernardino for their Mount Vernon Viaduct project. That's going to be a big project for them. They awarded the recommendation is to award the contract to Biggs Cardoza Associates to provide project construction management services for Mount Vernon Viaduct project, and that is upon concurrence or acceptance with Caltrans. So this is a Caltrans project, but there's a lot of construction that's going to be going on in our region as well as Los Angeles. What we're finding with our bids as they come in is that as Los Angeles plans for their, it seems like it's far off in the distance, but they're planning for the Olympics to come to Los Angeles, so they're doing major, major projects, which is impacting construction throughout our entire region as far as pricing. We reviewed and recommended sole source agreement with CalMat Company, doing business as Vulcan Materials Company for the purchase of 4.2 credits from the Colton Dunes Conservation Bank to mitigate Interstate 10 corridor project impacts to critical habitat of certain species, included but not limited to the Delhi Sands flower-loving fly. And we also recommended a third amended restated cooperative agreement with the City of Highland for the delivery of planning, environmental design right-of-way and construction phases for State Route 210 baseline interchange project, which adds the construction phase roles and responsibilities and increases project funding from Measure I and the City of Highland. We recommended the completion of appraisals of properties to make offers of just compensation to property owners for the acquisition of property that is necessary for State Route 60 Central Avenue Interchange Project. This will begin the opportunity for purchase of right-of-way acquisition. And we also recommended the memorandum of understanding with the City of Colton for the development of Interstate 10 Mount Vernon Avenue Interchange Project. That is really close to where we are, so there will be some construction going on I-10. We recommended approval of an environmental document, plan specifications, and estimated and right-of-way phases. We recommend the award to Kimley Horn and Associates for the preparation of these phases. We also recommend Measure I funding allocations for the Valley Major Street Program Arterial Subprogram for the coming year, and the project list for the Measure I Valley Major Street Program Arterial Subprogram. On June 14th, I attended the San Bernardino Valley Municipal Water District Advisory Commission on Water Policy. One of the most interesting presentations they gave that night was of a enhanced website for the water-saving, garden-friendly website. Very user-friendly, gives a really good picture of the way that we can landscape our homes and our businesses. that is very beautiful, but also it helps us to conserve water. If you go to ie.watersavingplants.com, you can access this website. We also elected our officers for this advisory commission. Chair Richard Corneal from the San Bernardino Valley Water Conservation District and Vice Chair Ron Coates, East Valley Water District. Other reports that were presented, one came from the San Bernardino Valley Municipal Water District Censure Policy Staff Memo to Advisory Commission. We reviewed the policy and made recommendations to the board members. They have, the board members of the San Bernardino Valley Municipal Water District found themselves in the position of needing to censure one of their members, and they found that they didn't have a policy to do such things. So they are in the process of developing that, and they will be voting on that. We considered an alternate for the San Bernardino County Board of Supervisors, James Ramos, who is appointed to this committee, and he was asking that one of his staff members could serve as his alternate, and we made the recommendation that this staff member could do so in an ex officio capacity. We received an East Valley District update on the programs that they have in place, and we also received an update on the California Water Fix. This is the area in the delta of central California that really accounts for a lot of the water that comes to us from the State Water Project. The Valley District participated in the planning and pre-design of this process for the California Water Fix. They used to call it the Bay Delta Conservation Plan and the Delta Habitat Conservation and Conveyance Project. So Valley District has been a part of the planning of this for the last 10 years. And in May of 2018, the Valley District authorized joining the Design and Construction Authority that is responsible for the construction of the water fix. The DCA will give direct control over the design and construction of the project to the State Water Project contractors that are responsible for the cost of the project. And Valley District was also offered the only at-large board alternate seat on the DCA, and so the board appointed the general manager of the Valley Municipal Water District, Doug Hedrick, to that position. We had our groundwater sustainability update, and we know that we're still in a drought. And they announced a revised meeting schedule to help us to have a quorum at our meetings, and we received the monthly regional water management plan statement for 2018. And that will conclude my report. We'll move on to the next item. We do not have any public hearings, so we'll move on to unfinished business. And so before we move on to this item, pursuant to Government Code Section 54953C3 and 3511.1, the legislative body is required to orally report a summary of recommendations for a final action on the salaries, salary schedules, or compensation paid in the form of fringe benefits of a local agency executive. So accordingly, before the City Council this evening as part of Agenda Item 9 is a recommendation to approve the following salary and benefit packages. The Assistant City Manager's salary has been increased by $4,000 per year in fiscal year 2018-2019, and an additional $4,000 per year in fiscal year 2019-2020 to address a compaction issue between staff positions. The city manager's compensation was previously approved in an employment agreement, and the terms of the agreement remain unchanged with the 2018-19 and 2019-20 budget. The salary of the city clerk, planning and development service director, and public works director remain unchanged with the 2018-2019 and the 2019-2020 budgets. May we have a staff report, please?
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council, Cynthia Fortune, representing the Finance Department. Staff report before you tonight is for the budget adoption of fiscal years 2018-19 and 2019-20. The adoption of this actually supports all of the 2030 vision and goals, ensuring our fiscal solvency, maintaining public safety, promoting economic development, developing and implementing successful partnerships, and engaging in proactive communications. This budget also supports the mission, vision, and goals. It increases the current level of service with focus on public safety and economic development. And as City Council is aware, the general fund does not use any fund balance for both years. And we recognize that the strong economic recovery in the city and strategically invests in the city's future. As Mr. Duffy has stated before, this is the general fund's long-term financial performance. And at this time and for the last few years, we are actually in the sustainable category, which means our revenues exceed our expenditures, and we do actually have a 2-month reserve for a rainy day fund. So just for clarification, the adoption of the city's multi-year budget for fiscal years 2018-19 and 19-20 is the adoption of all revenue and expenditure appropriations for all funds, which can be found, summaries can be found on packet pages 184 to 189. Detail is actually behind the resolution. We're also adopting the position summary that is found on packet page 237 of your report. We're also adopting the use of fund balances by special funds. Again, it's provided in your summary packet. So just as a refresher, the approved budget requests, as mentioned earlier, the compaction issue for the assistant city manager position, the unfunding of 2 departments in the finance department, the management analyst position, and the part-time principal accountant, and the addition of a part-time animal control code enforcement position. As stated earlier, fund balance is being used by the development impact fees, the air quality improvement fund, and the capital projects funds. In addition to that, annually, we have brought before you community event fee waivers. And as stated in the staff report, we're requesting that the following be waived for fiscal year 2018-19. For Friends of the Blue Mountain, it would be the Blue Mountain Walk. For the Foundation of Grand Terrace, it is the Memorial Day ceremony, Veterans Day ceremony, and Halloween in the park. And for the County Sheriff's Department, the National Night Out, should it be held in our city. I believe it is for 18-19. So the staff recommends that City Council adopt Resolution 2018, adopting the annual budgets for fiscal years 2018-19 and 2019-20. That concludes my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions City Council may have.
Thank you. I have a question for the city attorney. Since we had a special meeting and there were some motions raised on opportunities to make changes to the presented budget that would have allowed us to put some money towards overtime pay for sheriff. And we have the budget before us now based on what was decided. Is there an opportunity for council to consider any of those cuts one last time before this budget is adopted?
If I understand the question correctly, is can the council make adjustments to the budget at this time, at this meeting? And the answer would be yes.
Okay.
That's not the
Thank you.
question? I apologize, I didn't understand the question.
No, I asked if things could be adjusted, if the council decided they wanted to make adjustments, and then could they approve that budget going forward, or if adjustments were made, would this have to come back? And that was for the city attorney.
With respect to the Madam Mayor and Mr. City Attorney, we considered matters at the last meeting. We voted on those matters, or motions to put forward did not receive a second. So based upon the rules that we've adopted, the Rosenberg rules and the council procedures, there should be a motion to reconsider. We vote
No,
on that motion.
There's not a motion to reconsider, but I'm just making sure that my colleagues know that there's an opportunity for them to reconsider if that's what they want to do. I realize I put forward a motion That did not pass, and I realize I put forward motions that didn't receive seconds. But I just want to make sure that my colleagues realize they do have an opportunity to give that an opportunity for review one last time before they decide to pass this budget.
May I be recognized?
Mayor Pro Tem.
This is the silliest political stunt I've ever seen you pull, and you're really good at them. If you have any cuts to propose, you should have proposed them. What you had was $7,000, possibly $35,000 that you wanted to cut. So you're saying that you have a few less than 50,000 that's going to fund an additional deputy, when you know that's not the amount.
Mayor Pro Tem, there's an opportunity to take that money and put it towards overtime pay. And yes, it might not cover it for the entire year, but it'll cover it until the end of the year. And so what I heard my colleagues saying with their impassioned statements to me about the need for law enforcement is I'm amazed that you don't even want to consider cutting some of these items and putting it towards law enforcement.
I'm amazed that you don't want to even get revenue, for revenue is actually due to us from other entities within the city. So I think we should, I move adoption of the proposed budget as presented.
Second.
Okay, so I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Robles. I have a second by Council Member Henderson. Is there any member of the public who wishes to speak on this item? All right, seeing none, I'll bring it back. Are there any final words? All right, please vote.
Motion passes with Council Members Henderson, Hussey, and Mayor Pro Tem Robles voting yes. Council Member Wilson and Mayor McNamara vote no.
Thank you. We'll move on to new business, which is a resolution establishing an appropriations limit for fiscal year 2018-19. May we have a staff report, please?
Good evening again, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council. Cynthia Fortune. The staff report before you tonight is for the appropriation limits. This is in conjunction with our adopted budget. The staff report supports City Council goal number 1 of ensuring our fiscal viability through the continuous monitoring of revenue receipts and expenditure disbursements against approved budget appropriations. So the GAN Spending Limitation Initiative was approved by voters in November 6, 1979. This means every year we should establish an appropriations limit. That means that there should be a limit to the amount of tax revenues that we receive from residents. Any tax revenues received above this limit, once established, will need to be returned to the taxpayers. So for the calculation of the appropriations limit, the city used a change in per capita personal income as provided by the Department of Finance, and we used a change in San Bernardino population of the last year by 0.91%. So based on that method, the city's appropriation limit, the maximum taxes we could actually collect, is $13.9 million. Our current taxes subject to the limit is about $4 million. So we're actually 9.9 below that limit. That concludes my report. And we have several recommendations for City Council. They have to select the change in per capita income of 3.67, accept the change in the County San Bernardino population of 0.91, and adopt a resolution establishing that the appropriations limit for the City of Grand Terrace is $13.9 million. That concludes my report. I'll be happy to answer any questions
Thank you.
City Council may have.
Thank you for your report. Are there any questions of staff at this time? All right, seeing none, I'll open it up to public comment. Are there any requests to speak? No, I'll bring it back to council for consideration of a motion.
Mayor, I move that we select the change in per capita personal income, select the change in the County of San Bernardino population, and adopt resolution establishing appropriations limit of $13,993,395 for the City of Grand Terrace for fiscal year 2018-19.
Second.
All right, I have a motion by Councilmember Henderson, a second by Councilmember Hussey. Please vote.
Motion passes unanimously with Council Members Henderson, Hussey, and Wilson voting yes, Mayor Pro Tem Robles voting yes, and Mayor McNamara voting yes.
Great, thank you. We'll move on to item 11, which is award contractor agreement to Hardy and Harper for pavement rehabilitation project. May we have a staff report, please?
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. Alan French, Public Works Director, here to present this item of awarding the pavement rehabilitation contract to Hardy and Harper. The staff report supports the 2030 goal number 2, excuse me, maintaining public safety by reinvesting or investing in the critical improvements and infrastructure. In November of 2016, the city had approved a 5-year capital improvement program based on the pavement management system, which included recommendations. The first-year contract was awarded in April of 2017 and included slurry seal treatment of about 81 streets. For year 2, the contract will include slurry sealing again of about 24 streets with the addition of grind and overlay and reconstruction of about 10 additional streets. This project will complete the preventative section of that program and start in the more expensive reconstruction and grinding and overlay part. In May, the city advertised the project in publications online and sent packages to 20 firms for bidding. The bids were due on June 13th, and at that time they were opened, and we did receive 2 bids of what you can see there on the slide, one from All American Asphalt and the other was from Hardy and Harper. Hardy and Harper are the low bid for the project. We did check on the firm's references and received positive feedback. They are currently licensed, and so their bid was the low bid for the project. At this time, staff is recommending to award the contract to Hardy and Harper, authorize the city manager to execute the agreement and any necessary change orders. And I'm happy to answer any questions the council may have, and a representative from Hardy and Harper is here, Corey Kirshner as well. Thank you.
Thank you for your report. Any questions of staff at this time? Councilmember Wilson and then Hussey.
Mr. French, not a question necessarily, it's just that be careful with these guys so far as thicknesses. Do we have an outside entity that's going to be checking thicknesses and so on, or are we doing that?
No, we have an on-call inspection contract, and that's with H.R. Green, who's going to be the inspectors and managing the contract.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Councilmember Hussey.
On packet page 440, see it's talking about the gas tax fund, SB1, and you have it in the budget. And Mayor Pro Tem said that's coming back to the voters. If it doesn't pass, are we going to be hurting without that $151,000?
Yes, okay, yes, sir, Councilman. Right now, the program is in effect, and we are accruing payments on the SB1 program. And in November, hopefully that will pass. Hopefully the public realizes the importance of that. But even if it doesn't, the payments will continue to come in and cover that cost until it's in effect. If it's stopped, then the payments will not come in for the future projects, but we will have accrued enough to cover this project.
I just want to make sure that we're not $151,000 short and we have to try to get money for this when we want to try to get money for other things.
Sure, I understand. But the program is collecting revenue at this time, and so we will be accruing that and utilizing it for that project.
All right, thank you.
Right, any other questions of staff? Right, I'll open it up to the public. Are there any requests to speak on this item? Right, no, so we'll bring it back to council for consideration of a motion.
Madam Mayor, I'll move for approval to award the contractor agreement to Harding Harbor for a pavement rehabilitation project and authorize the city manager to execute the agreement and any change orders.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Wilson, a second by Councilmember Henderson. Please vote.
Motion passes unanimously with council members Henderson, Hussey, and Wilson voting yes, Mayor Pro Tem Robles voting yes, and Mayor McNabo voting yes.
Thank you. On to item 12, which is a vision report. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. For the record, G. Harold Duffy, City Manager. Yes, Mayor, this is the 2030 Vision Report. We're talking about the policy revisions and next steps regarding the process. So tonight, we're going to cover 4 actions for the council. Receive and file consultant report on the 2030 Vision workshops, approve the city manager's 2030 implementation plan, phase 2, review the city's current governance policy and provide direction to the city manager, and the city manager and council workshops and updates for implementation of the plan. That's what hopefully we'll be able to do that in the near future for as part of the city manager's evaluation. So the history on this, City of Grand Terrace did a 2030 vision, originally approved in 2014. The council conducted 2 half-day workshops as the majority of the council were not part of the council, which originally approved the 2030 vision in 2014. So the council thought it was best to bring the council body together again and see if the program outlined then was still germane to the direction the council wanted to go now. The council workshop reviewed city's current governance policy and will provide more clarification and direction. And the city manager council workshop updates for, as I said earlier, hopefully we'll be able to work with the city manager's evaluation. So the progress on the plan so far is one of our primary strategic goals is to ensure fiscal viability. So the progress that we've made so far, we paid off City Hall, we've ended furloughs for the employees, we had 3 straight years of fiscal solvency, we had full cost recovery of existing fees, and we have new revenues that have been identified, and we've corrected imbalances in special funds. Goal number 2 is we've maintained public safety by implementing the camera system. Bad guys are being caught with that system. Traffic enforcement at schools results in safe streets. We've increased special and event enforcement activities. We've increased code enforcement. We've also added a crossing guard at one of our major intersections on Barton Road. We've also secured RDA bond funds for infrastructure, including the camera system. Goal number 3, promote economic development. We've implemented the Midas program. We've have partnerships with businesses. We've done business assistance guide. We've fully funded $105 million I-215 interchange project. We've got a gateway-specific plan with total value at build-out is $400 million in mixed-use development. We also have goal number 4, develop and implement successful partnerships. We partner with Riverside County in joint paving and striping of Main Street. We've received transportation grants for walkable communities, the ATP grant. We've partnered with Sandbag and Caltrans on the I-215 project. We've partnered with the City of Colton on the Barton Road Bridge replacement project. We've partnered with the State of California for the Blue Mountain Trailhead grant. And we've also reaching out and engaging in proactive communications with increased activity on Facebook, YouTube, and other activities. So on the progress of the original plan, the council identified successes during our workshops, but there also were some key recommendations that emerged. There was the renewal of community partnerships and adoption or adherence to our governance policy. There's also the social media aspect. We had heavy, detailed discussion about that. We also talked about team building initiative. And we talked about building an effective communication strategy. So community partnerships. So we also want to have a clear understanding of roles in community partnerships. Staff recommends that all partnerships adhere to the city manager use of all the city manages the use of all city facilities. Sorry about that. And city understands its full cost recovery to operate programs and provide equal access to all clubs and leagues to facilities. Lead some activities as quality of life programs and identify some programs as quality of life programs. Example, for the holiday tree lighting program and the community day, those activities are official city activities that the city will be spearheading for in the next 2 fiscal years. And so what we need to do is to go back out to some of our partners to ensure that we partner with them, but that they understand that we will be providing the lead support in these particular activities. Also, the council has agreed to a policy of governance that includes the roles and responsibilities of elected officials, the workflow requests, time management and tasks for project requests. Responses to council requests should be distributed to all members of the council. Questions on agenda packets should go directly to the city manager. Staff concerns should be addressed with the city manager. Public requests of council meetings shall be addressed by staff or agendized. But here's also some things that came out of the workshop, some other things that we need to look at too. The council confirmed existing governance policy, actually twice in both of the half-day sessions, but other areas of governance needed to be addressed in terms of speaking time limits, maximum meeting durations, and for example, as we currently build our agendas, we don't have, as some agencies do, some agencies have a maximum amount of time which they set for a council meeting, and then the council can motion to extend that time, but it also allows us to really to clock and time the meetings. And we also have the long-term agenda process, and then balancing urgency items with timing, as we talked about earlier. And then the question keeps popping up about who sets the agenda and how things get on the agenda. And so one of the things, hopefully through a workshop or a subcommittee, we can actually lay those things out so we can come up with a clear governance policy on those particular areas. So then also we talk about team building. The council and manager should meet to clarify roles and responsibilities and engage effectiveness of the city manager's implementation plan phase 2 and incorporate the process with the city manager's evaluation, because there is included in this packet a 15-page document that is the city manager's implementation phase 2. And most of the items that are listed in there is really the game plan on how we're going to move forward in the budget process. And so by having that as part of the city manager's evaluation, there's an opportunity to be able to check in either on a quarterly basis or a semi-annual basis to say, this is how you're doing with that implementation plan, and if there are other things that you want to add to the implementation plan, that's a good time to be able to check in with the city manager to be able to do that. So one of the things that staff is recommending is that the council have a team building session with the city manager and the council to be able to effectively implement the implementation plan. And I've reached out to various agencies, and the JPIA has been willing to provide us with a facilitator to help us with that for best practices. And so I'm going to be contacting the council. If that's a desire of the council, maybe we can set a time frame in July to be able to sit down with that facilitator to go over some of the best practices to be able to build that team, council and manager team building relationship as it relates to the implementation plan and moving that forward. So with that, the recommendation was, there were several recommendations listed in the report. One was to receive and file the consultant's report. The second was to approve phase 2 of the city manager's implementation plan of the 2030 vision. and receive and file the council's current governance policy or provide staff with direction on next steps, and then direct staff to schedule workshops or team-building exercise with the city manager. So with that, I'm available for any questions, Mayor and Council.
Thank you. Any questions of staff at this time? Councilmember Henderson.
I don't really have a question. I want to thank Mr. Duffy for the report. I have a couple of comments I would like to make, if that is appropriate.
I think this is our time for questions, so we can come back for comments after we ask if there's any public comment. Are there any questions of staff? All right. Were there any requests to speak on this item? All right. All right, the floor is yours, Councilmember Henderson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The staff report contains several attachments. A significant number of them relate to the Vision 2030 adopted in 2014 as indicated by the manager. Since that time, the council has reaffirmed either twice or three times the original vision with no modifications or amendments. I mention that because on packet page 559, there is a section on governance, and I want to read a few items to the council and to the audience, because in my view, we are not in compliance with the governance protocols that we adopted and have reaffirmed. Council requests for research or other staff work must be directed to the city manager or the city attorney regarding legal matters to the city clerk regarding matters within the clerk's authority. If more than 1 hour of staff time will be required to complete the task project, the item will be agendized to ask the city council, should it spend more time on the proposed item. Now, we receive reports from the city manager indicating that I'm providing this information to you because staff spent more than 1 hour. That's not what this requires. That's not what it says. It says that if a council member asks the city manager to conduct a special task, and that task takes more than 1 hour of staff time, the manager is required to come to council, agendize that matter, and ask council whether or not he should proceed with the request as submitted. The next item says staff responses prepared for council inquiry shall be distributed to all city council members. In my view, that doesn't occur. I have said on several occasions, including the last workshop regarding the 2030 vision, that I believe all council responses or responses to council inquiries should be shared with all council members. Just as a matter of course, I have a number of questions, generally speaking, on the agenda process, and I receive responses from the city manager and staff regarding those questions. I've also indicated that I'm more than willing to have the questions and the responses shared with my colleagues. Anything on the city council agenda, anything related to city business should be shared with all council members, regardless of who the original requesting council member is. So this is the governance policy that the council adopted. It's not the governance policy that the council is following. The next item, a council member shall not direct staff to initiate any action, change a course of action, or prepare any report. In my view only maybe, I don't know, that also is not occurring. The manager gets directed by some, maybe not all, council members on matters of interest to those council members. And those requests, I would be willing to say, pursuant to this governance policy, and almost certainly pursuant to the city manager's contract, if it's based upon the model city manager's contract, that those requests are out of order and inappropriate, based upon the governance protocols adopted by this body in 2014 and reaffirmed 3 times since. There's more, but I think you understand where I'm headed with this. If we adopt policies then we must follow our own rules. If we don't follow our own rules, how can we expect anyone else in the community to follow our rules? Or how can we expect anyone to have confidence in our ability to govern with integrity? So I ask my colleagues, if not tonight, certainly later when we have further detailed discussion on this, are we going to follow the rules that we've adopted, including the Rosenberg rules that we adopted as part of council procedures, or are we going to do what we've been doing and not fly right, not fly straight? So I suggest, as a matter of course, that when this matter comes up, that we say what we mean, and we mean what we say, rather than paying lip service to a document that's supposed to govern our actions and govern our relations with one another. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Henderson. Councilmember Wilson, did you have comment?
I'm not exactly sure what we're talking about here, because as I go through these particular items, it sounds like there's some accusations being made in relation to whether or not we're following some of the principles. And it seems to me that this body, although it may not be perfect, doesn't deliberately, vary from what it's set down as far as policy and administrative. I wonder sometimes if maybe we're not getting in the range of administrative questions because of a lack of knowledge or a lack of experience in relation to things, rather than an outright, change. I know I have not violated any of these items myself, especially in relation to trying to get preferential treatment from the city manager. And it concerns me that maybe it would be a good idea for the respective council people that have a problem with this, that they probably should discuss the situation in a different forum, so that we can talk about specific incidents and make corrections. Like I said, I don't think that any of us are perfect, but I don't think anyone is deliberately circumnavigating any portion of our policy.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, I'm resistant to a receive and file or any action on this recommendation. This has been a sore spot for me. This is something that I probably spent 3 years trying to get adopted. We can't even have a meeting on a proposed budget, and there's no action taken at the end of the meeting. So we're here again, relitigating it. I really feel that some of this, we need to start your annual evaluation. I think we need to schedule that next meeting, and I think this needs to be part of what we address for there. I think a lot of this is, is in your court as far as performance, and we need to have a private discussion on that as is allowed under our rules.
Any other comments? Councilmember Henderson.
Some of my comments were referred to as accusations. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I can understand and appreciate my colleague's perception. I will say that the governance procedure requires council members to receive, all council members to receive all the information related to a particular inquiry or topic. And I can say clearly that this council member does not receive all the information related to inquiries from other council members. And I would think, but I don't know for sure, that those council members don't receive the responses that I submit to the manager on various topics, more to particularly the biweekly agenda process. So all I'm suggesting is that we consider with clarity on this topic, that as it relates to the business of the city, that all council members receive all the information, regardless of who the requesting party is. That's what we agreed to do. That's not what's happening. That's not an accusation, that's a statement of fact. So I agree that maybe this is not the time to have a deep dive into these topics, but it's important, I think, that we set the table properly from this day forward, because we've not done a good job of complying with our own rules. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
All right, what is it that we would like to do with this item? There are 4 recommendations by staff. Mayor Pro Tem is not in agreement of a receive and file for probably 2 of the items that are receive and file, so that's so noted. Another recommendation is approve Phase 2 of City Manager's Implementation Plan. And number 4 is direct staff to schedule workshops, team building exercise with City Manager and City Council to discuss progress of Phase 2 of the City Manager's Implementation Plan for 2030 Vision. Are there any of these items that we would like to take action on tonight?
I would like to table the items, and because I think we need to do our annual performance review, and I think we'll have more clarity from that point of how we want to proceed.
So is that a motion to give staff direction to schedule that and to bring this back at another time?
Yes, I would like staff to schedule city manager work performance evaluation the next meeting, and to table these items pending that review.
May I, Madam Mayor?
Mr. City Attorney.
Yes, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, may I suggest that you not use the term table, just that it would be brought back at a later time? Because if you say table, then it'll take a
That's right,
vote to bring it
kinda
back
did.
on. Yeah.
Thank you. So,
Want to amend your motion to say bring
That
it
would be
back?
brought back at another time.
yeah, that's such an odd, yeah. I'm going to amend my motion to repeal the term table and to ask staff to bring this back.
I'll second.
All right, there's a motion and a second on this item. Please vote.
Motion passes unanimously with Council Members Henderson, Hussey, and Wilson voting yes, Mayor Pro Tem Robles voting yes, and Mayor McNabo voting yes.
All right, thank you. Our next item is a successor agency special meeting agenda item. We have 1 item, and that's to approve the sale of successor agency property located at north side of Barton Road and east of Vivienda Avenue. May we have staff report, please?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Excuse me, thank you, Chairperson Mayor. This is a successor agency item, members of the board. The item before the board is the successor agency is the proposed sale of the successor agency property located on the north side of Barton Road, as indicated by the director, and east of Vivian Avenue. This item is a special meeting item. It had to be re-agendized as a special item to correct the location of the property. So this property is identified in the successor agency's long-range property management plan as property number 1, and it's this property here. It's made up of 2 separate parcels, but it's referred to as property number 1. It's located in the Barton Road specific plan, which is intended for general commercial uses. And the Barton Road specific plan anticipates that in this area, lots will be consolidated and new development would occur. The executive director of the successor agency, Mr. Duffy, did receive a proposed purchase of this property late in last week, and so we did put this item on the agenda. The proposed buyer is D&M JFH 1 LLC, and they are proposing to purchase this. They also represent this property here on the corner. And what was attached to the report was the letter of intent to purchase from the buyer, and the representative for the buyer is present this evening. The letter of intent that was attached also indicates that this purchase would be contingent upon entering into escrow the middle property here, which includes the Happy Care and owned by Dr. Luke. And so you could see if that is achieved, then these parcels can be consolidated, and it would provide a much better, more cohesive development for that corner. So again, this property was included in the long-range property management plan. It was amended and adopted by the successor agency in 2014 and also by the Oversight Board. Subsequently, it went to the Department of Finance, and the Department of Finance did approve the property management plan. The property management plan did identify that the property would be liquidated, meaning sold, and also did identify that there was a small stockpile that had some non-hazardous levels of diesel and motor oil, and so that's also part of the property information. This action does go to the Oversight Board, but which is important to note is that the action does not require Department of Finance approval because they've already adopted the long-range property management plan or approved it. So the agency has the proposed letter of intent, which is they would purchase the property. Provided to the agency at the dais is a purchase and sale agreement that was drafted, and that would supersede the letter of intent. The purchase price is proposed at $400,000, or a value that's set by the broker's price opinion and value. The property management plan did identify the property as valued at $350,000. And again, this was at 2014, and so staff anticipates that the price increased at either $400,000 or it could be higher, but we'll find that out with the BPO. There is the contingency that the buyer is able to enter into escrow to purchase Dr. Luke's property. And there is also in the letter of intent, but not included in the purchase and sale agreement, that Dr. Luke obtain a buildable pad on property one. And that's because that's subject to separate negotiations and not applicable to the escrow. So the escrow period as proposed in the letter of intent was to have a period of 30 days with an option to extend and a 5-day due diligence or inspection period. The purchase and sale agreement that's before the agency contains the key points with regard to the letter of intent, with regard to the purchase price, the contingencies. However, the escrow period is proposed at 90 days with the 45-day inspection period. And the reason for that is because of the environmental phase one that would need to be done for the property to determine the type of remediation, if any, needed for the low levels of oil and diesel. The purchase and sale agreement that the agency is being requested to approve does not commit the city to any project approvals. That is a separate process subject to Planning Commission review. And then also it includes a reimbursement for agency counsel costs to prepare the agreement. The fiscal impact with regard to this item. So the proceeds from the sale of the property will be distributed to the various taxing entities. The entities that would receive the largest distribution or disbursement would be the city's general fund of approximately $80,000. Colton Joint Unified School District would receive the ERAF, which is the Educational Revenue Augmentation Fund, would receive a share, and then also the County of San Bernardino General Fund. And again, at a purchase price of $400,000, the agency, excuse me, the general fund would receive approximately $80,000. And so the recommendation is a little bit revised from what's on the agenda report. We are asking that the agency find the action to approve the sale is exempt from CEQA. But we are also asking that the agency adopt the attached resolution that's included in the staff report, approving the sale of the successor agency property identified as property one, subject to the terms specified, and that would be the price of the property to be higher, the $400,000 or the broker's price opinion. The escrow is going to be 90 days, and the sale is contingent on Planning Commission making a finding of determination of consistency with the general plan. And lastly, staff would request that the agency also authorize the executive director to execute the purchase and sale agreement consistent with the terms outlined above, and that such terms as may be required to execute and implement the agreement. I would conclude my presentation to let the agency know that Candace Bosner, that represents the buyer, is present in the audience, and I'm happy to respond to any questions. Thank you.
Thank you for your report. Question by Board Member Wilson.
Thank you. Can you bring that last sheet up? Just have a question. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sentences down. Sales subject to the Planning Commission determining the sale of the property and is consistent with the city's general plan. Is that correct wording? I understand that you want it to be consistent with the general plan, but I don't think the Planning Commission is allowed the authority to determine anything about the sale.
So the wording, the and on the end of this first line should probably be removed.
There you go.
But,
All righty.
yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions of staff at this time? Board Member Hussey.
This is for Mr. Duffy, probably can answer this, and I don't know. If we're going to be receiving, if everything goes right, 80,000 to the general fund.
Yes, that's correct.
Is there restrictions on what we could use that 80,000 for?
There's no restrictions, but I believe that money has been programmed as part of revenue to help balance this year's budget.
So you're already counting on it to balance this year's budget?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Board Member Henderson.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Director Molina, is Dr. Luke's escrow contingent upon this escrow?
Yes, one of the contingencies is that, the escrow is contingent upon the buyer entering escrow with Dr. Luke's property.
So if Jacobson Family Holdings and Dr. Luke cannot agree on the remainder parcel, well, let me back up. Is the remainder parcel going to be negotiated as part of that escrow or subsequent to? Do you know?
The buyer's representative, Candy Bosner, is present, and she could probably better respond to that, but I believe it's a separate agreement.
Okay, where I'm headed is that I just want to know what, if there is a chance at all, if Dr. Luke and Jacobson don't reach agreement on the remainder parcel, will it blow up the whole deal?
Yes.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Vice Chair Robles.
Well, and if the deal falls apart, how do you backfill $80,000 loss to your general fund?
Well, we have others that are interested in the property. The overall goal is to sell it. And so what happened is we were in negotiations and talking with others for the property. But because of the potential of consolidating all of this together, we brought this forward to the council because we hope that by packaging this together, you'll get a bigger, better product versus just a development on that particular lot. So we have received over the last 4 months interest in that property, but it's just been interest. And so with this one, once Jacobson listed his property, he received a number of requests, and so he wanted to try to package this together. So our overall goal in this year is to sell it, and we've been trying to sell it for a while, but trying to find the right partnership. So it isn't that we have to get the $80,000 now, but we want to get the $80,000 before the next fiscal year ends.
Well, yeah.
Yes.
Board Member Henderson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, might we hear from the Dr. Luke's representative on this topic?
Would you please? Jacobson.
Jacobson's?
I'm sorry, Jacobson.
I would like to hear from Dr. Luke as well, but I don't think he's here tonight.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here. Will you please state your name for the record?
Absolutely. Candy Bosner, I'm the broker at Grand Terrace Real Estate on behalf of Doug Jacobson.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. Can you offer an assessment as to the prospects for successful negotiations with Dr. Luke?
Certainly. Mr. Jacobson had purchased this property back in '07, the corner lot, and he had kind of held on to it during the years. We had tried to make some negotiations with Dr. Luke, because it is our ultimate goal to try to develop the entire block, not just the individual parcels on single buildings. And I was approached by the city manager, Harold Duffy, approximately about 6 months ago, that Dr. Luke showed some interest in selling his property, but it was with the intent that he would like to move his building down a little bit to one of the city's lots. And so with that in mind, when Doug Jacobson approached me recently to list the lot, we put it on just the corner lot by itself. And I had a tremendous response with several national title tenants that could stand alone on the corner. It was not subject to Dr. Luke's at that time. And we had several fast food restaurants, a bank, and all of which would be an asset to the city. But Doug has a really proven development experience here and track record in Grand Terrace. He was part of the CVS development. He was a huge part in the development of the Stater Brothers complex. And he thinks very highly of Grand Terrace. And so when he was approached me, he said, you know what? I don't have to acquire it, but sometimes in development you get a golden opportunity to combine projects together or combine sites together. And he said, right now that's that opportunity. And so based on that, we started negotiations this last week, and I really would like to commend both Sandra and Harold. They have just done a tremendous time. Harold stayed late, and we've taken an offer over to Dr. Luke, and he was reviewing it over the weekend. We'll try to touch base with him, but it was offering him the terms that he had come to Harold on, that he would be interested in selling for. And it is our hope that we can package all of the national titles that approached us in this project. But I think it benefits the city. As a resident that was brought home from the hospital to Grand Terrace, born and raised here, and have my business here, I would like to see something beneficial for that entire block. It would really bring us the revenue and the sales income that the Grand Terrace is desperately needing. So I hope that your vote will be yes, and I think you'll be pleased with what Mr. Jacobson and the city can combine together to build there. It will be an asset, especially with the intersection of commerce coming in here. That's going to be a major intersection for us. And let's build something that's great for the city.
Well, thank you for your response. I know Doug personally from prior experiences.
He's a great guy.
He's a great guy, and if anybody can get it done from a negotiation standpoint, Doug can get it done. So thank you again.
Absolutely.
Any further questions of Ms. Bosner while she's here? All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you. And thank you for your time tonight.
All right, any further questions? All right, seeing none, I'll ask if there are any questions. Anybody from the public who wishes to speak on this item? Nope, bring it back to council bring it back to the board for consideration of a motion.
I move adoption of the item 1, approve the sale of successor agency property identified as property 1 in the adopted long-range property management plan, subject to the terms specified below. A, the sale price of the property shall be the higher of $400,000 or the prepared broker's price opinion. B, escrow shall close 90 days from the date of opening unless extended by the executive director. C, the sale is subject to the planning commission determining the sale of the property. And 2, authorize the executive director to execute a purchase and sale agreement consistent with the terms outlined above and such additional terms as may be required.
Second.
All right, motion by Vice Chair Robles, second by Board Member Henderson. Please vote.
Pardon me, Madam Mayor. Sandra, I'm sorry, could you, needs to make a comment.
Director Molina.
Yes, Chairman McNamara, I just want to make sure that Board Member Robles's motion and the second included the adoption of the resolution that's attached to the staff report. Just want to make, and that includes the adoption of the purchase and sale agreement. So I want to make sure that's just clear for the record.
Was that clear to you when you made that motion, Vice Chair Robles?
Well, I don't see anything saying about a resolution here, so I'll amend the recommendation, the motion to include attached resolution.
And I amend my second.
And the second amends as well. All right, please vote.
Did it work?
Try it again. Are we good?
I apologize, can you revote? Only 3 are showing.
Absolutely. Please
Thank
vote
you.
again.
Nope.
Can we just raise our hands?
I do believe that you all voted yes before. Do you have the same vote?
Were there any objections? No? Okay.
Motion passes with board members Henderson, Hussey, and Wilson voting yes, Vice Chair Robles voting yes, and Chair McNabo voting yes.
All right, thank you very much. We will move on to City Manager Communications, Mr. Duffy.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, wanted to provide you with just information on this City of Grand Terrace Summer 2018 Activity Guide. These are some activities in which the city's Park and Recreations Committee and staff have put together. There's coming soon to a park near you. There's 4 movies and music in the park. Based on a community survey on Facebook, this community selected The Sandlot on July 14th at Veterans Freedom Park, Ferdinand Ferdinand on Saturday, July 28th at Richard Rollins Park, Mrs. Doubtfire on Saturday, August 11th. I'm sorry, I meant to say Ferdinand, Saturday, July 28th at Richard Rollins Park. And then Mrs. Doubtfire on Saturday, August 11th at Richard Rollins Park. And then Baby Boss, or Boss Baby, on Saturday, August 25th at Susan Petta Park. Also, we are featuring yoga and Tai Chi and Zumba in the park. There will be an opportunity for residents to join our local Zumba instructor in the park. It's sort of like an introductory class. If they like the class, they can then move on to go to her studio here in town. And it is in the Saturday mornings from August 7th through August the 4th. There's also an opportunity to do Tai Chi in the park on Saturday, starting on the 14th through the 4th. It's also by a local business owner. And then we have yoga in the park on Saturdays at 8 a.m. From July 21st through August the 4th in the fitness park. In addition to that, we have activities that are hosted at the Senior Center. There's a list of activities there, along with the lunch that's provided every day from 11:30 to 12:30. There's the senior exercise, penny bingo, karaoke, July 4th celebration, trip to the Redlands Bowl. We also feature Colton Joint Unified School District's locations for any kid can get a lunch in the summertime, so there's no reason for children to be hungry. And we have featured 2 spaces, one in Grand Terrace High School and Terrace Hill Middle School, and there's also selection at Cooley Ranch. In addition to that, as the council was aware that the city partnered with Colton Joint Unified School District to refurbish the Terrace Hills Middle School, but unfortunately they're having some problems with that, so that's not open at this point in time. So what we're going to be doing is having a Friday and Saturday pool opening at the high school from 10 to 11. There'll be on Fridays and Saturdays lap swim, and then starting on July 3rd to the 28th, on Friday, Saturday, during that time period, and then it'll be open swim from 11:30 to 3 p.m. And then also what's going on in the Grand Terrace Library, there's lots of different activities that are happening there. So we have that listing there of Creepy Creatures on July 5th, and Kyle Teenan will be doing activities on July the 12th, And then Buster Balloons will be on July 19th, and the Mobile Zoo in Southern California will be here on the 26th. And then August 2nd, 2018 will be the Wacky Show. So we just want to make sure that people understand there's lots of activities that are happening in Grand Terrace for the summertime, for the youth, for the seniors, and for families. We also want to remind the council and the citizens that these activities are being brought to you by in cooperation with community input from the Parks Committee. It's Jeffrey McConnell, Karen Zors, Julie Cook-Fernakis, and Richard Loader and Brian Phelps are the members of the Parks Committee. And they also meet the second Thursday of each month at 4 p.m. at the City Hall.
We have no closed session tonight, so we will adjourn. Next regular city council meeting will be held Tuesday, July 10th, 2018 at 6 p.m. Agenda item request must be submitted in writing to city clerk in her office no later than 14 calendar days preceding this meeting. We are adjourned.